Hey guys, my name is Patrick Hart, and I want to welcome you to our second episode of our Dem-NPL podcast here in North Dakota, uNDeterred. And a lot has happened since our last episode. We got some really good feedback too. So if you guys tuned in, thanks for watching our first and now also our second. I'm Patrick Hart. I currently serve as the state party treasurer. I'm former lieutenant governor candidate, former state chair, a local business owner here in Bismarck, and I am joined by my two guests, Jamie Selzler and Lisa Hermosillo, who are my co-hosts. Lisa, tell me just a little bit about yourself real quick.
Hi, my name is Lisa Hermosillo, and I am a former state legislative candidate that ran in District 38 here in Minot. And over the last couple of years, I've really been hands-on with advocating for mental health. So I do run a support group as well at the Minot Rural Fire Department twice a month. So that's just a little bit about what I'm doing now, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of this and seeing where this goes.
And Jamie Selzler, tell me a little bit more about yourself this week.
Sure, I'm the DNC National Committee man for North Dakota, so that means I represent our state with the Democratic National Committee. North Dakota has 4 members, our chair, vice chair, a National Committee man, and a National Committee woman. I've been involved with the Dem-NPL for a long time. I actually was just thinking that I know that I like to say I'm only 29 years old, but I ran for the legislature in North Dakota as a Democrat 18 years ago now in 2006 in Grand Forks. That was my first time really active running or doing anything with the Democrats. Prior to that, I had gone to some conventions and stuff. And then I was the executive director of the state party, the Obama cycle, the year that he ran. It was a great year for us. We picked up some seats. Obama got close to winning North Dakota, learned a lot. So I've just stayed involved ever since. Even when I moved away from North Dakota, I've been back for a few years and have always tried to stay connected. Thank you for watching or listening today, everyone.
Well, thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Lisa. And of course, thank you for joining in. And before we jump into kind of some current events or what's on our mind, I just want to let you know, wherever you're at in North Dakota, whatever I call them customer base, whatever constituent base you are, who you represent, you are wanted in our party. Our party's stronger with you. Lisa's mom from Minot, she's got a couple of great kids. Jamie's rocking a career in Fargo. I'm a business owner in, Bismarck. So from whatever walk of life, whatever background you have, we want you to come into our party. We're stronger with you, and it's never too late to join. With that, I'm going to talk. What's on my mind this week is Bismarck politics. And when I say Bismarck politics, I'm talking about organizing locally. We had in Bismarck with the Bisman Dems, 40 people come to an event last night on Inauguration Day. So that would have been Monday, January 20th. We wanted to surround ourselves with good vibes and good people and get away from that national narrative. One reason I came into state party politics and local politics is because I watched that national narrative for years and years and years. And I decided no matter how much I educated myself, I'm not going to understand the Department of Defense budget. And I wanted to actually make a difference. So I stepped in locally. And my first event is an event that I'm going to pitch right now. Upcoming in Bismarck, March 22nd at Horizon Middle School up north in Bismarck off 43rd Street or Ash Cooley Drive. We're going to have a reorganization. That was my first event. I called headquarters. I asked how I could volunteer. I was given a list of 100 people. I called them all twice. And then I showed up, and our District 30 didn't have a secretary. So I got to take notes at my first meeting, being volunteered as secretary, actually with crayons for the notebook I brought for my kids to color in. The reorgs that I'm talking about are going to be on a district level. So we're looking for people to step into district chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer to get ready for this upcoming election season that we're already in. there's give or take 585 days for election season. So it's really a great opportunity to volunteer, and it's never too early to start. The next meeting I want to talk about is on May 3rd. May 3rd is our state reorganization meeting. We're actually going to have that in Bismarck as well. The reason we picked May 3rd is because it's going to be right after legislative session. So we're going to have our legislators come to address with a session recap. And we're also going to elect the state chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer, and our regional reps. So we're going to really give the statewide leadership team some volunteers to lean into. So please come to that night. We're going to have a fundraiser, the governor's dinner, one of our two big fundraisers, and it's a really good time. Invite you all there. With that, Jamie, can I kick you the mic first? What's on your mind this week?
Yeah, Pat, could you just maybe repeat the date of that state policy committee meeting?
Yep. So on May 3rd, we're in the morning, in the day, we're going to have a policy committee meeting. That's all of our district chairs and vice chairs. And then that night, we're going to have a governor's dinner. Again, at that state reorg policy committee meeting, we're going to elect our statewide officers. Like I am treasurer, I'll be up for re-election. And, any regional reps, we'll be re-electing those too. So it's really a great opportunity for our state leadership to kind of get promoted or our district leadership to get promoted up to the statewide level. And again, we're going to get some elected officials to give a recap of session, and hopefully we can get some amazing speakers too.
That's great. I assume people can go to our website, Dem-NPL.com, where they can learn about all that, get tickets. Excited to be there and see everyone as well. So speaking of events, you mentioned the district reorgs that are coming up. I encourage everyone to go to our website. One, if you are a chair, to submit those events if you have them scheduled, to make sure that they're on the website, and then for others just to look and see where yours is. I've made a goal this year to go to every single reorg in the state. So far, I have them all scheduled out. I don't have any conflicts, so far so good. To go to all those, I will see you in Bismarck. Lisa, I'm sure I'll see you in Minot, and I have Grand Forks and Fargo already lined up, as well as Dickinson and Williston, and try to go everywhere in between. So, and then Valley City, I think, is the first one. So looking forward to that. And so I think it's important for us to go to as many of those. By us, I'm talking, statewide leaders, to go to as many of those as we can to, show support, answer questions, and things like that. So hopefully if you're watching or listening, I get to meet you there if I haven't met you yet. Pat did mention that there's a need for officers. Don't let that scare you away. If you don't think that you have the time for that, you don't have to sign up for that. You don't have to be an officer. It's great if you want to, but really the purpose of the reorganization is to elect those folks. So we need as many people there as we can to show interest, to vote for those officer positions. And it's also fun, and it's fellowship, especially right now with the recent inauguration and how we're all feeling. Sometimes being around other fellow Democrats makes it feel a little bit better, because you know that they feel the same way that you do, which isn't always the case in many of the places that we go at work or school or church or our neighborhood. So come out, have some fellowship, make some friends, and participate. In terms of what I'm working on as the DNC National Committee man, one of my roles is to be one of the 448 voters for the chair of the Democratic National Committee. And so just last week, I went to Detroit. It was the first in-person debate between all of our candidates running for chair. I think we have 7 or 8 candidates running for national chair of the DNC. But it was actually a full day thing. I think the debate started at 1 o'clock and they ended at 9. And we had debates for national or for the treasurer position, for secretary. There are 4 at-large vice chair positions with the national party, 1 vice chair position that's focused on civic engagement and voter protection. And so we had debates for all of those. I was very fortunate while I was there. I got to meet individually for about half an hour apiece with the 2 leading candidates, Ken Martin, who's the chair from the Minnesota DFL, and Ben Wickler, who's the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. Both are extremely successful at what they do. I don't think Ken's lost a statewide election in the entire time that he's been chair, going back to, I think, 2011 is when he became chair. And then Ben Wickler has raised a truly insane amount of money for his party through national sources, from lots of really innovative events. During COVID, he often had Zoom events where he would bring in, they had a West Wing reunion, they had a Princess Bride reunion, and people were giving, $10 or $20 to the Wisconsin Democrats. So, and he has done really well in a battleground state that's really tough. And so I had, at least at that point, I had not endorsed anybody yet, and wanted to meet with them just to talk about what they would do for North Dakota. And so I think either of them, and then I also met with Martin O'Malley, who's the former governor of Maryland, and those are the sort of the three top folks in the lead for this, and all of them committed to continuing to support state parties all across the country like ours. We get about $15,000 a month from the DNC, which we use to pay for some staff, for technology. They've all committed to doing that. A few of them have committed to increasing that funding. And they all have really good plans. None of them are very different from each other. They all have very similar ideas for how to get ahead. Ultimately, in the end, I joined the other three voters in North Dakota and yesterday endorsed Ken Martin from Minnesota to be our national chair. Ken knows North Dakota. Many people watching or listening and maybe met Ken. He's been to events in Fargo. He was in Bismarck last year for our major fundraiser there, and has a really successful record. He also knows a place like North Dakota. He's a state party chair for Minnesota, and Minnesota is not just the cities. Minnesota is, western Minnesota, which are places just on the other side of North Dakota in the Red River Valley. So he sort of gets what it takes to win here. And I think that's the sort of focus and attention that we need as a DNC chair. If another candidate wins, for example, if Ben Wickler pulls ahead, I think we'll still be great. I think he's still going to be a good chair for North Dakota. But I just want to show some appreciation to Ken for what he's done for North Dakota by giving him my vote. And so I picked up my little Ken, you can't see it, my Ken for chair button. In addition, there are races for vice chair. And I joke that we have about 100 candidates for the at-large vice chair. There's probably, I think, about 15 total. And we elect 4, so 2 men and 2 women are vice chair at large. All of North Dakota has endorsed, and actually this has just happened, and I think we've even announced it yet, but one of the candidates is actually really interesting background. David Hogg is a name that might be familiar to people. He was one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting. He started March for Our Lives, the group that's working to end gun violence in our schools. And so he's running for chair or for vice chair of the DNC. And I was able to meet with him and spend time with him. And coming out of that, I and the rest of North Dakota's delegation have decided to endorse David Hogg. There's my David Hogg button as well. And so David really brings this kind of young perspective that is going to be a bit different to the DNC. It's something that we need a bit more of. I will say, for those who are listening in and thinking about what you want out of the national party and how it affects North Dakota, it really does have an impact. We have our election on February 1st. We did not do well across the country. We sort of, we did worse pretty much everywhere, except I think Washington State did a little bit better than the previous time, but everywhere else did a little bit worse. And a lot of that's coming down to the brand, like who are we as Democrats? And how do we allow Republicans and Donald Trump to define us? And so one of my major focuses as I talk to these folks is finding exactly what kind of chair are they going to be. I'm curious what your opinions are, Pat and Lisa, on what you would want to see coming out of this role. But there's sort of 2 schools of thought because this is such a big job. One is essentially a kind of a leader of the resistance, someone who's going to be on TV all the day, speaking out, fighting the Republicans, fighting Donald Trump, in addition to our elected officials. And then there's another school of thought that is focused on organizing, that we have lots of leaders in the party who can speak up, but we need someone who really kind of can make sure that we win everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. And so whoever we elect is going to do both of those. But they each have different strengths in terms of what they bring to the table. One may focus, like a Martin O'Malley's as a former governor, is much more of the spokesman, kind of leader of the resistance type, whereas a Ken Martin or Ben Wickler, because of their status as state party chairs, are about organizing. So curious, Lisa or Pat, what you think we need to do nationally that's going to help us win in North Dakota. I'm sure we're all thinking about it. Everyone listening is thinking about it. What are your thoughts?
I'm a yes, we can guy. I think, we have a good relationship in North Dakota with Ken Martin. I think he can start running on day one. Ken's got a plan. I also think that Minnesota, being such a swing state, has a really good list of leaders that can step into Ken's shoes so that we can maintain that Democratic representation from Minnesota. The one thing that I want as far as North Dakota and a state is I want people to quit flying over our state. I'll tell you, I got like 6 seconds with Nancy Pelosi about 5 years ago, and I said the farmers need their soybean market back because Trump was in the middle of a trade war with China. And I said, please quit flying over our state. As state party chair, it's incredibly hard to get surrogates here to North Dakota for events like the upcoming governor's dinner. And we need that energy here, whether it's, the second gentleman or whomever has to come care about our party. Locally, the Republicans, Rick Becker is getting, vice chair of the national party to Bismarck for events. And we need that energy here. So I think Ken's going to help do that. But I think to answer your question a little more directly, I think we need more focus on organizational. I think that we have leaders, we have elected officials that can FaceTime and be the talking heads on Face the Nation and whatnot. I really want someone who's going to get their boots dirty and help organize and help states organize. So that's where I think that position needs to go. Sure.
Lisa, if you have thought about this, because the national politics affected your race. I'm sure there were people who said I was never going to vote for a Democrat. I'm not going to vote for a Democrat at all, even though you're saying I'm very well qualified. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with Pat as well. The organization part of it is crucial. And I think we need to get people who aren't afraid of the what people like to call the harder to win areas. We have to be willing to go into those areas and believe we can win them, and not, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes we shy away from them because we're afraid of that defeat. But I think if we can turn that around and gain that confidence and gain that momentum and get people to believe as well, I think we're going to see changes there. And right now it's hard because, yes, with the supermajority here in North Dakota, and maybe that's why we kind of, like what Pat said, we kind of have people that just fly over because they say, well, what's really the point? It's kind of at a loss there because of how red it is. And I think we just need to view that differently. I think we need to be up for the challenge and have people who are willing to step up to the plate and truly, truly believe that we can make those changes and we can win these races. And that does start with organizing as well, starting from districts as well. There's a lot of work to do, but I know that we can do it.
Yeah, I think it's clear talking to all of the chairs, both individually and when they have their forum and just when they're campaigning generally, there is absolutely a belief across the country that we as a party have not done a good job letting working folks, the middle class, know that we care about their issues, the issues that cause stress at night when they're sitting around the kitchen table or when they're trying to fall asleep and they're staying up because they're worrying about something. And I appreciate that they're all aware. The thing that I heard over and over during that day was that we need to meet voters where they are. And that means that we have to reach voters in different places. Democrats have to go on podcasts that might not be, like this, which is, I imagine not a lot of Republicans are listening to our podcasts, but, there are podcasts out there where people who are undecided or in the middle and we need to have our people go on those. We need to not be afraid to go on Fox News. We need to really go to where the voters are rather than expect people to come to us. And so I think I'm really glad that they're all talking about that. And that's a major focus that's going to be coming out of this. it's frustrating talking to a lot of our, particularly legislative candidates in the state. I'm not going to say name, but there's one in particular who's in a rural area, who's very well respected, has lived there for years, and everyone likes this person. And this person, in a normal year, 10 years ago, this person would have just won in a landslide as a Democrat in this district because the voters wouldn't have cared. In this case, the person got very few votes, even though they're really qualified. And when they asked people why do you think I lost? They just said, well, I'm not going to vote for a Democrat because the Democrats are how we're defined by others. So if I were to, it's the thing I've asked all the chairs. It's the thing I remind myself of, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, which is, and if at district reorg meetings, you'll hear me say this: we can't just be a part. Donald Trump has defined the Republican Party. They're now no longer a party. They are just organized around a personality around him. We have also allowed him to define our party, that whatever Donald Trump is for, we're against. Whatever he's against, we're for. And just because he does something or says something, it doesn't mean we have to respond to everything. Instead, we should certainly respond if he's going too far or he's causing damage or harm. We should do that. But we should focus on what are the things that people care about that affect their lives every day. And those are the things we should talk about. And when, not if, but when he fails and when the Republicans fail, nationally or in North Dakota on those issues, that's where we step in to remind people we can do better and we have better ideas. And so it means that we have to focus on that and not get caught down rabbit holes, whether it be when we're talking to a neighbor or we're on social media or whatever. So that's my advice coming out of this. I'm very excited to go to the DNC meeting in the next week. And while I'm there, I'm going to try to get as many little interviews as I can with a number of folks, and we'll show them here on the podcast. And then to your point, Pat, about us being a flyover state, one of the nice things about this process and it being the first truly competitive DNC race in many years is I have everyone's cell phone numbers now. So when it comes to finding speakers or finding support, financial support, we now have a number of people that we can call on to hopefully show up here. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I hope to see everyone at the district reorg meetings around the state in the next couple of months. Lisa, what's on your mind?
Well, mine's a little more current event oriented here for Minot. One major thing that we've really been seeing a lot of people talk about is the new proposed hospital that's supposed to be going in on the north side of town. I think it's there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. There's a lot of people who aren't happy with the services that they're receiving from Trinity Health. And a lot of people end up traveling to Bismarck because of the wait times. But there are people that are kind of divided on the competition that that's going to bring for jobs. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There's a lot of people that think how that's going to hurt Trinity. If this new company that comes in, how competitive their pay is going to be. But a lot of people are really just excited to see more growth in that you're bringing people into North Dakota for this for these jobs. And I think they said they were looking at closer to onwards of 60 employees. 60. So it's still a good chunk of employees that they're going to need to bring in. But I know for people out on the base, they're going to be really appreciative of something being closer to them as well. And then a little on the sadder end of things, I don't know how you guys are aware of the major investigation that was opened on the within Minot Police Department and the chief. Recently, the chief and the city have decided to part ways, but the city did spend about $100,000 on this investigation, and then now there's a proposal for another $50,000. But we did have an officer that committed suicide just in the last week, and that's been very difficult for the community here. And so it's just how we're going to move forward from that and how we're going to heal. And especially, obviously, our thoughts are with the police department. No one likes to see things like that happen. but I think it is also going to bring us together, and hopefully going forward, we can fix those issues within the department and get back to feeling like there's that trust there and the support that they need as well as police officers.
I think it also highlights that politics isn't just about these partisan roles like in the legislature. It's who gets elected to the city council and Minot really matters for things like this. And those are nonpartisan races all over the state: city council, city commissions, park boards, school boards, county commission, township officers, water board. I mean, there's so many roles that are nonpartisan that have a real impact on the community, more so than who the president is. Even is who's on your city council can have a bigger impact.
Well, thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Lisa. Up next, you guys, we had opportunity to interview again Gretchen Dobervich. She's going to give us a good recap of week 3. And, we'll do an outro at the end, but appreciate Gretchen, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Jamie. Hey guys, my name is Patrick Hart, and I am here on another episode of uNDeterred with a week 3 recap with my good friend, House Representative Gretchen Dobervich.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
We're really excited because as you've been probably following along digitally or maybe in person, providing some testimony already so far, we have a couple updates, and I wanted to get Gretchen in the studio so we could talk about those and let you know what the tea is here in Bismarck. Gretchen, what went on this week?
So it was kind of an exciting week. I would say the tea is about medium. It wasn't real light, wasn't real dark, because we're still getting kicked off. One of the big bills was House Bill 1145, which was Representative Jeff Overson from the Minot area's bill to put the 10 Commandments in every public school classroom. This is not a new bill. This has come up many times over the decades in North Dakota. This would mean, when I say public schools, this is K through 12 and higher education. So if you're in Grand Forks or Minot or Fargo, Mayville, think about how many classrooms are in our colleges.
Sure.
So there's a huge expense to this if it passes, like a financial expense, in addition to the fact that it favors one faith over others. And I think one of my favorite comments about it was, so the 10 Commandments are hanging in my child's kindergarten room. How does the kindergarten teacher explain some of the different things that are in the commandments to a kindergartner?
Sure.
And I think that's fair. But also the fact that we are not all Christians, and for those of us who are Christians, there are different denominations that maybe have wording a little bit different. And the other thing is are we just posting them to post them, or are they being integrated into the curriculum? Which, one, posting to post doesn't really do much. And two, if they are getting integrated into the curriculum, then we run into the issue of the separation of church and state, and public schools are not parochial or faith-based schools. So there's just a lot of problems with this bill. The hearing was huge. The room was full. It was standing room only. I think one of my highlights to it was Representative Mary Schneider from District 21 in Fargo is the lone Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, and she just shined. She had really great questions for the supporters of this bill, and she, as an attorney, was really able to point out some of the legal implications. And I think we all, with recent stories in the news, know how many lawsuits the taxpayers in North Dakota are paying for, and this has all the potential to be just one more. Hasn't been voted on, hasn't come to the floor, but it was definitely kind of the highlight of the week kind of hearing.
Now, let me ask, fiscal note. Did the fiscal note on the bill include implementation? and the lawsuit that we're going to have to cough up dollars
Yeah.
for as a state to defend this bill?
Yeah, so when I looked at it, and I could be totally wrong because the rumors you're hearing are true. We have and just nearly unmanageable amount of bills so far, and we're still not done with bills dropping. But when I looked at it, it looked like there was not a fiscal note, and I could be wrong on
Sure.
that. But as our legislative caucus was sitting around talking about it, it was like, we have a lot of public schools. There's a lot of classrooms in them. And we have a lot of classrooms at our institutions of higher education.
Sure.
And that's a big expense. And someone had commented, well, if we're going to do it, we might as well go big and, do them in stone. And and I'm like, it's I think, sometimes it's that gallows humor to try to get through the, kind of the challenge of, we have a lot of things we should be working on in North Dakota, and a lot of things we should be making sure we maintain. And this bill just sort of felt like a distraction to some people, and I would agree.
Well, and where I come from, and I married into a Catholic family, grew up on a farm, and I think that there's already a really good system for teaching kids about the Ten Commandments, about religious dogma, and I don't know why we would want to recreate that in our public schools.
No, we have plenty of opportunities. I went to Sunday school as a kid.
Yeah.
We talked about them. It's talked about in church for folks who are Christians and attend church. I had the, luxury of having parents that, worked really hard to teach us to be good people, be good to your neighbors, be good to the earth, and to kind of support that. And we also we do have private schools that are faith-based in North Dakota. If that's the kind of education you want for your child, then that's where they should go. And again, I go back to are you just posting them, and then why are we spending the money? Or are you posting them and integrating them into curriculum, and then that's a whole other conversation. So I don't think that was well thought out.
No, this is Halverson, you said, right?
Halverson, yep.
Now, did Yanni Murdahl bring this up last cycle? I want to remember, because I thought I remember Joel asking her if she could name the Ten Commandments, and I don't think they could.
Okay, yeah, I don't have as good a memory as you do, Patrick. But this is not new. I mean, this comes up on a pretty regular basis, and it never gets passed. And so, part of me is like, do you really strongly believe in this because it's the right thing to do for North Dakota and it's where we should be spending our time and efforts? Or should we be, focusing on healthy, happy communities, creating environments in which, parents can spend more quality time with their kids. They're not working 3 jobs so that they can buy groceries and pay the bills.
Sure.
So they are able to be part of their children's growth and enrichment. And so I don't know. I'm a definite no vote on it. And it's not because I don't like the Ten Commandments. It's not that I'm an anti-Christian person. I just, as a person of faith, I don't think it's a good idea. I think that, like you said, we have a lot of other ways in which we can truly instill these beliefs in our children, if that's what we choose to do as parents. And also, I don't want to pay for it.
Sure. I don't want to pay for the lawsuit.
Yeah, and I don't want to pay for the lawsuit, right? Yeah, I don't want to pay for either of them.
And we'll let this one lie, but never on my 2 campaigns has anyone brought that up to me. On a parade route, on door knocking, no one's ever said, we really need 10 commandments in the classrooms. Never once.
No.
What else was a highlight?
So the Blue Law bill came up again to repeal the blue laws. So as you recall, a couple sessions ago, we were successful after decades of trying to work to repeal the blue laws so that stores could be open on Sundays if they chose. Businesses could be open if they chose to be open. and they could provide all services if they chose to. And I'm old enough to remember when they started to relax them a little bit, and you would go to the grocery store after church to pick up like milk or bread or something, and they would have aisles that were blocked off. Like you couldn't buy dog food or toilet paper, but you could buy milk and bread and eggs. And then they, like kind of slowly opened up a little more. And this bill was introduced to repeal that and go back to Sunday closure laws. And I guess I was kind of anticipating a lot of banter on the floor when the bill was heard, and there really wasn't.
Okay.
It was it lost by a large margin. I don't remember the vote count myself, but it was not. It was just kind of vote and move on to the next thing. And so that tells me that there isn't a lot of appetite for us to repeal them. Certainly businesses have the choice. I always use the example, there's a small business up the street from my house that I love. I frequent them. They're one of my favorite places to shop, and they've always been closed on Sundays. And it creates an opportunity for the owners to have a day off, for their employees to have a day off. They have been in business for decades, and it's a choice. And if you want Sundays off to go to church services, work with your employer. If they don't, maybe that's not where you should be working.
Sure.
And the other thing with that is Sunday isn't the Sabbath for every North Dakotan. Some of them it's Saturday. And also churches have adapted over time to offer services at other times because folks are, life is a little bit different. We've got traveling sports where families are out of town on weekends. The Saturday night mass and spending Sunday the day with your family. And so, again, I think this was another far-right religious supported bill that favored one particular group of North Dakotans' beliefs over others, and also infringed on private business.
When I think about my small business, and we're off on Saturday and Sunday, I'm glad I have the choice. Sometimes we work if we need to, but I don't understand why political party, the Republicans, we just talked about two bills, are increasing government on telling businesses how and when to operate.
Yep.
That's not small government.
No.
And also we're telling teachers, again, we're meddling in how they're going to teach. Instead of letting the Department of Instruction, Kristen Baszler, work with the federal government on the approved curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just let them do their job.
Yeah.
And hey, if you want to go to church on Sunday,
Go to church
go
on
to
Sunday.
church on Sunday. That's fair.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Big government, small government. What do the Republicans want?
Yeah, right. It's kind of whiplash.
Yeah.
Like, what is, what are you saying? What are you doing? Where are you really at?
It's almost like their actions don't represent their values, and they especially don't represent their values that they pitch.
Yeah, I would
There's
agree.
3 different things going on there. We'll call it the triumvirate.
I like that. Triumvirate.
Are those the only 2? I mean, I've heard a lot about Jim Casper this week.
Yeah, so Jim Casper has had a lot of attention. Representative Jim Casper from Fargo's District 46. He had a bill in to get payment for meals for legislators during session. So right now we're paid our salary,
Okay.
and then we're reimbursed for housing at the state rate, and then we are reimbursed if we drive from Bismarck to our hometown and back again. If it's outside of Bismarck-Mandan, we're reimbursed for that.
Okay.
So if I go back to Fargo on the weekend, I get paid reimbursement.
Sure.
And I'm great with that, because a lot of my colleagues today are having community forums and town halls, or are participating in activities directly related to this work. And so it is important for us to go to and from our communities during this session and engage with the folks that we work for. And, you know, housing, one of the things with housing is, my husband always jokes at tax time that I have a job that costs us money. And it does. For me, I look at it as it's part of the privilege of being a public servant.
Sure.
You're literally maintaining 2 households. You're paying rent down here. You're paying your mortgage or your rent back home. You're paying your utilities back home. All of those expenses don't go away. Your car payment doesn't go away, any of those things. But then you're also incurring these other expenses. And, you know, you're looking at, you know, $10 breakfast, unless you stay at a hotel while you're here that serves breakfast for no cost. You know, you're looking $15-20 lunch, you know, evenings, depending on what you eat. And so it is an additional expense you incur. Now, for those of you that know me personally, or those of you that are seeing me on TV, you can tell that I am not lacking for food. So clearly, I, you know, like, we are making enough that we are able to have lunch. And, you know, would it be nice to get that? Yeah, it would be, because there is a financial strain. The flip of that is, I truly believe, and this may sound socialist to some people, but if we're going to assure that one group of people has lunch, then we need to do school lunches, free school lunches for everyone. And we also need to find ways to take the burden off of North Dakotans who are also paying for groceries in this in the higher inflation we're in right now.
Yeah.
Like, everything is a little bit more expensive right now, and probably will be maybe for a little while longer. And I just feel like if we're going to do it for one group, we need to do it for all, because we're all in this situation. And it's a choice you make when you decide to run, is knowing that if I win and I get there, this is what the job pays.
Sure. It's almost like there's this mantra of self-accountability and pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. But then again, in practice, we're asking for more money from the government.
Yeah.
As a Republican.
Yeah.
Trying to increase government payments.
Yeah. Did I also mention that we get our health insurance paid for while we're in office? So that is not an expense that legislators are incurring, that, you know, everyday North Dakotans are incurring. So that's a large benefit that we receive. And to me, like, would I, you know, rather spend, you know, $50 a day or whatever it costs for food a day, and have like this other benefit over here? I'm a focus group of 1, but when I look at the big picture, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, you know, too, it seems like there's really a disconnect between what an average citizen is paying and how they are unable to self-manipulate their wage. They get what they get, and they're committed to that until they get, you know, an annual COLA living or 3%. But he knew what he was getting into.
Yeah.
And now that he's in there, he wants to change the rules to benefit himself.
Right.
Again.
Yep. And that 3% COLA is not a guarantee.
Sure.
And even with all that, in House Agriculture this week, we heard a bill requesting an investment by the North Dakota legislature, i.e. the taxpayers, into North Dakota's one and only food bank. 1 in 3 kids in North Dakota goes hungry.
Okay.
And that's a lot. That's a lot. That's too many. That's way too many. And so if I kind of go back to, you know, I am so hoping we make that investment, and we make that full investment, because the food bank serves all of the food pantries and soup kitchens in North Dakota. So it may be located in Fargo, but it serves all 53 counties in North Dakota are served by it. So it's just, that just happens to be where the warehouse is. And so when I look at hunger, and all of our bills related to hunger, I'd like to see some consistency in that, so that 1 in 3 kids has a meal
Sure.
in their stomach in one of the largest egg producing areas in the entire world. And I make enough money that I can pay my bills back home. I can pay my bills here. And I mean, I went out yesterday afternoon and picked up a nice dinner and so I don't know. I don't see the necessity of it.
Well, and rumor has it that this week we have a mystery representative spending a lot of time, maybe too much, at B-dubs. And there's a lot of rumors going around about who it was, but we can make sure that it was no one in the Dem-NPL caucus. And I'm glad that they can figure out how to balance their budget to get some wings and maybe a few too many beverages. Nonetheless, I digress. Hey, you mentioned representatives or senators going back to their hometowns on the weekends.
Yeah.
This week, I have to shout out, if you're not following District 44, which is Josh in the Senate, Carla and Austin, Foss, new House Representatives member, they have an amazing weekend update. So if you don't just want to watch these, you should subscribe to that District 44 update. This week, Austin did it, and it's worth reading, quite honestly. What else do we have? Did any events this week or anything going on?
Yeah, so I do want to give one more legislative highlight, shout out, and then we'll talk about events. So Representative Lori Beth Hager from District 21 introduced a bill that would allow persons who are currently under probation or parole to be able to cross state lines to get behavioral and mental health services. So it's compact right now. It's Minnesota and North Dakota. Minnesota has legislation that they're working on passing as well. And what it will do is for folks who, as either part of their conditions, their court conditions, or personal, like I need help, I want to go get help. It ensures that North Dakota Medicaid will continue to be their payer if they cross the river to receive services. And so it would be, I think right now it mostly impacts Eastern North Dakota, and that's not by design, because it actually, South Dakota and Montana can enter into it as well if they wanted to. And so what it does is it just opens up more options, more accessibility for folks who are either court ordered or are personally driven to seek out services to be able to access those services.
Well, it sounds like to me is that Lori Beth, and that passed, correct?
It passed the House, yeah, or it passed the committee, and it will go to the House.
Go to the floor now. So it seems to me that we are putting
It
our
passed the House. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of too many things at once. It passed the House yesterday.
nice.
So yes,
So the pass the floor. Going
passed the floor. It's going to the Senate.
So it really seems to me like we're putting our dollars where our mouth is. We're living the talk. We're putting forward bills to increase accessibility to mental health care.
Yep.
And that's what we campaigned on. That's what we're putting forward. Even though we have a super minority, we found legislation that everyone can agree on. And like we talked about Casper earlier and a couple of these bills. When I think of the duplication of bills, there's 40 property tax bills. I want there to be ideas. I absolutely do. But also I believe in collaboration. And as we look at 40 bills, I wonder, why didn't the caucuses work together to try to put 1 or 2 bills that have multiple people working on them, again, with legislative council, instead of having to hear the same reasons over and over and over again. And I promise you, I'm not trying to pick on Jim Casper this week, but he had 2 bills that failed miserably, and like 97% margin. And again, I wonder, is that really those bills coming from his constituency? Are those bills coming from the caucus? Or are those bills just being put forward so he can have a campaign promise or attack ad next cycle and say, I stood up for this? Failed 97%. But What else do we got? What's going on next week?
Yes.
Or
So
events?
yeah, so events like one fun thing is the inaugural ball is tonight. Sadly, we are not celebrating the election of a Dem-NPL alert. But Representative Governor Kelly Armstrong's inaugural ball is tonight, so that's a big to-do going on in Bismarck. And I have a little preview for next week, what's going on. Monday at 5 p.m. is the last time. There's the deadline for members of the House to get their bills in. Anything after that has to go to the Delayed Bills Committee, which is a bipartisan committee that decides if your bill moves forward or not. We have so many bills this session that I think that it will be very difficult to get a bill approved by delayed bills unless it's something big and glaring that got missed, or if they're combining bills, like we talked about all the property tax bills, perhaps they'll take all of the best ideas from them, put them into one bill and then put it out. But I think just I didn't get it done in time isn't gonna work. And then the Senate has their first deadline. So they've been able to introduce bills, as many as they've wanted up until this coming Monday. And then they'll have 1 week where they can only introduce a certain number of bills as well. I believe it's 3 on their side.
Now, I might be projecting, but clarify me if I'm wrong. I wanted to say there was about 550 bills initially proposed in the House, and then they had a week to have potentially 5 more per person. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
And that week will come up on Wednesday?
On Monday.
On Monday.
Yep.
So do you know what our bill count is in the House now, or just ballpark me, 800-900?
It's 900 and some. It's close to 1,000. There's an estimate we may have up to 1,400 bills, which is a record number of bills. Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. Again, super majority of Republicans, and they've had it for years. So why is there so much to change this cycle that they haven't changed before, that they haven't figured out, that they haven't fixed? Now keep in mind, our Dem-NPL small but mighty caucus passed over 50 bills last cycle. All of them obviously had to have significant bipartisan support. So we're putting bills forward that are getting bipartisan passing. The Republicans are bringing up bills from old cycles again and again and again. I wonder if we're going to see casinos outside of every urban area this year.
I hope not, because gaming is the up and coming hot topic.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of work done on looking at the impact and costs associated with the ETAB machines.
Sure.
And how they're regulated, how they're not regulated, what organizations are able to get the status to put them in places and aren't. And so I look to see down the weeks for us to see some big bills coming on that. And I really hope off-reservation casinos is not one of them.
I do agree. And good thing we were able to channel Carlson and stop that nonsense.
Yes.
The ETAP machines, just really quick, I heard again this week that they're becoming under the microphone on what qualifies as a charitable organization, because it seems like some of these charities are pretty ill-defined. So that's on the up and coming.
That is on the up and coming. Yep. That is definitely on the up and coming.
Anything else that we have, or anything else that you want to talk about?
Just a quick preview for next week. There's a whole lot of bills about a whole bunch of different things going on next week. But one bill I really want to highlight for next week is Representative Mary Schneider out of District 21 in Fargo has a bill to make POW Missing in Action Day, which is a nationally recognized day to honor soldiers who were imprisoned during their service during war times, or who are missing in action, and their families and communities don't have answers. And Representative Schneider is working to make that a state holiday.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about that. We don't have a lot of state holidays in North Dakota. And I think this is I think POW, MIA soldiers is a very worthy group of individuals to have a state holiday to honor them. And so I'm excited to see where that bill goes.
Again, I think that's a really good example of representing the communities that we live in and finding a need and trying to push legislative action instead of increasing your per diem to make more money personally.
Agreed.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. That's all we have for a week 3 update. This is, of course, my good friend, House Representative Gretchen Dobervich. I am Patrick Hart, and for another week, we will remain undeterred. Well, that was a great interview with Gretchen. I love when we get a chance to talk, and I'm really excited that we have this podcast because we get to share those conversations with you guys and with the world. So I'll tell you, we'll wrap really quick, but I want to give the viewers, the listeners, an opportunity to give us feedback. If you want to see any changes, if you want to see us interview anyone, or if you just want to give us a thumbs up, always email me. I'm pat@Dem-NPL.com. And we do appreciate that feedback. Second, of course, I'm an amateur politician, so I always have an ask. If you guys are viewing this, please share it on your page. Share it to your people. Tell people about it. We definitely want to get our viewership out there. This next week, we're going to have our House Minority Leader, Zach Ista, on. Zach is one of the funniest guys I know, of course, next to Trigby Hammer. So we're glad we can have him. And then our next future episode, we're actually going to be following Jamie as he goes out to Washington, D.C. for that, DNC chairs race. So I appreciate you guys joining in. And Jamie, Lisa, do you have any last words?
I'll just ask everyone to go to our website, Dem-NPL.com, where you can learn more how to get involved, find events in your area.
Yep, and just stay engaged as much as possible. Follow us on Facebook, follow your favorite legislators, and just stay vocal, whether that's submitting testimony or going down to Bismarck, going to these hearings. Just I encourage everyone to stay involved and participate as much as possible. It makes a difference, and we all have a role in the changes and how the process is going down in Bismarck. So like just like what Jamie and Pat have all said, just to stay involved.
Hey guys, one last reminder, please get involved. Please come to those events. I feel like here in North Dakota, we are undeterred as a party, and we are also on the verge of something really big. And I'd like to welcome you in to be a part of that. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye.